Hold on a second. Apparently my camera is not working. Let's see what's going on with the camera. Camera comes down. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Camera was unplugged for some reason. Or at least it was failing. We are in pretty certain forlorn muskeg right now. We're in kind of sad shape. Middle of the day, don't have cabin fever. Conditions bad. Let's see what we can do here. Should we just leave all this out for now? What's our plan? Tall pieces of coal.
I can barely walk with this much gear.
Okay, we rushed in. I don't see any crows up there, so I don't think there's anything on the summit with that. That says there's a moose around somewhere.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
So yeah, happy Saturday, everyone. you're all having a good time. Not certain who will join us tonight, but I'm on at least. Too breezy, really just too breezy right now. Much wind. So I figure we probably got this stream and maybe one more stream, and then we need to do something new because we'll hit day 50, I think, within a couple streams. Well, our other option would be to go into...
I hate being cold, because I really do.
into the basin. We can go to the basin. Yeah, we really can't afford to lose any more condition.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Yeah, on this side, put the stuff that's already cured. I think we should go to the basin.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Basin, we know we can, it's a contained area. We can hunt. Anything we shoot will die and fall someplace where we can recover it.
Wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
So yeah, earlier this afternoon I broke with my usual boring Saturday routine and went out to catch a book launch. So it wasn't anyone I knew directly. This is a younger writer who is friends with some of the other writers I know in the area. And I thought, saw the event come up, thought that sounds like something that might be interesting. Figured it'd be nice to get to know some other local writers. And yeah, it was great. The poet, so the book was, might read from it later. Yeah, by Natalie Lim, called Elegy for Opportunity. And it is an absolutely amazing, very different sort of book. Different than how I would write. Which, as a writer, I always want to see what people are doing that's different from how I usually work. But she even had a D&D related poem in there, which I thought was fantastic. So the opportunity that there's 5 elegies for opportunity in the book, and they all make reference to opportunity as in the Mars rover opportunity. And if you remember a number of years back when Mars rover opportunity was declared deceased after a major sandstorm buried it, and it was unable to use its solar cells to recharge. There was like a widespread grief, and in the worldwide community, somehow this little robot explorer, people saw themselves in and really felt for its end. So yeah, she writes about that, but she also writes a lot about pop culture things and a lot about personal things. I don't know, as a first book, it's like some people try to write poetry that will last and last and last, as in it is seemingly timeless. It does not reference. No, we don't need those things anymore.
So cold. This is link.
Yeah, so some people write poetry to be timeless, to kind of endure sort of fads. And other people choose to document the time that they live in and reference things that people know, that speak very much to a moment. And I think both are perfectly valid approaches. It really largely depends on the project you're working on, like what kind of book you want to write. What kind of poems do you want to write?
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
More matches. We have so many matches on this run. It's the most bizarre thing. So many matches. So anyways, there was so Natalie Lim was the headliner, and then there were a few other poets that were reading as her special guest poets. One of them was this Isabella Wong, and I was, even though she only read 3 poems, I was really struck by them, and I thought, I'll have to get her book as well since they had it available. So, no, it was good. It was very good. Okay, we have a stove here. And I did like too how convenient it was to get to the location. Simon Fraser University, SFU, was hosting in their downtown location. And so I could just hop on the train, go all the way up to the end of the train, into downtown, get off, and then walk 2 blocks, and I was there. And it made me realize just how convenient, how central my apartment location is for pretty much every institution, at least for certain campuses. Like, about half an hour to any, unless it's Langara, which is literally like 3 blocks away. It's even easier. Okay, we didn't do anything here. We probably should. Let's boil some water here. Yep. Here I am.
Barely walk with this much gear.
Oh, welcome in, Roar. Long day of pagers. Oh no. You got called in a lot? That's no fun. I decided to come to the basin because 1, we don't actually have to climb any ropes to get here. 2, there's lots of food. 3, anything we shoot will fall someplace where we can find it. We don't have to worry about things disappearing, we just have to hunt long enough. And there's not that many wolves. There's this one and maybe one other one. Oh, right over his head. No, that wasn't good. Right over his head. Try this again. What? You dodged? Curse you, wolf. What happened there? You like squiggled right at the end. Totally not fair. Okay. Oh, I curse you, annoying dog.
Where can I find something to eat?
Yeah, exactly.
Feels like night is coming.
So yeah, I was saying I got back from attending a poetry event earlier today, which was really quite good. I was hoping it would be good, and turned out that not just the person whose book launch it was good, but all their guest readers were excellent. So I made it an all-round, like, definitely worthwhile trip. I ended up buying 2 books. So, and this is Canada, so poetry books are more expensive. But in the States, you usually can buy a poetry book for about $15 to $18. In Canada, they usually cost around 20, 25. So 2 books, $42 plus tax. So off stream, I've been working my way through chapter 4 in Wintermute. And yeah, it's everyone's favorite region, Blackrock. But so far, it's been okay. I dealt with 1 pack of timber wolves, just using the blue flares, but I ended up using a lot of them because it kept chasing me everywhere. So now I have no more blue flares. But then I also realized that they give you the recipe for the noisemakers right away. So, I mean, as soon as you find your first noisemaker, you learn how to make them. I didn't realize that. I thought I was going to have to go find instructions. So I could have been making noisemakers earlier. So. Ooh. You got tariffed on both parts of the Monty Python TTRPG? Ooh. So, like, both on the
Why didn't that work?
manufacturing side, like, and then on the. Oh, both as a. Well, okay. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. It's like, as a. Oh, it had 2 boxes. Oh.
Come on, little fire. Perfect.
What do we have to eat? Well, we got lots of cattails, so we're not hurting. How's our water situation? We could use more. Interesting. Okay, let's see what we got here. Do we still have any herbal tea left? No. Do we have any birch bark tea? We can make birch bark tea. And while I was standing in line to get my books, get the books signed that I purchased, I was chatting with someone in front of me. It turns out he is a novelist who has just finished her first novel and is in the process of getting it sent out, trying to find a publisher. So, anyways, it was a good connection. Possible client in the future if she kind of reaches a point where she wants more feedback than she's getting from her readers, her beta readers. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Don't freeze to death. Okay, we've got some improvement. Okay, let's drop our water. Conditions a little bit better, but still a little early. What else did I do? I did a little bit of shopping. I restocked a few groceries, but I also went on this quest to try to find a good spring jacket that I could wear. I have one that kind of works, but I wanted to have a second one, like a different option. So I tried a few different places and no success. I think one of the recurring problems I have is that everyone seems to, well, let's just put it, it's like, I think what I'm discovering is that I am you probably don't need the lantern either. Or this guy. Can move this one. But yeah, I'm discovering that I feel like I'm in this in-between zone for clothes, especially for coats and shirts, where somewhere between an XL and a 2XL. 2XL is too boxy. XL can sometimes also be boxy or sometimes be tight. Let's go looking for that wolf. And most stores don't carry a lot of variety. Like all their nicest looking clothes all fall in the medium, small, medium, maybe occasionally into large. When you get up to the extra large and 2XL, you get crappy choices. So yeah, I went looking and I was not successful. But in the end, I did buy something. My regular dress shoes are getting a little bit on the beat up side. They're not like useless. They're actually still in pretty good shape. But I felt like I needed to have a second pair to rotate. And I saw a good price on the size I needed, which is like a 12 wide. And so I went in and bought them. They were comfortable. I think I might still want to add in like an extra insole. Like a little bit of extra padding. Because I'm heavy enough on my, when I'm walking, that does do a lot of impact. But yeah, so I did buy a pair of shoes. I did find something I liked. This is terrible. What is up with this weather? Basin's supposed to be nice and pleasant most of the time. Oop, missed. It ran away. There's one. It's over his head. No, don't like that shot.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Ah! There we go. Mission accomplished. I think the worst part about this region is that there's just so few places to shelter. You pretty much have to use the cave. I mean, it's a good shelter, but it can be a long walk if you're in a windstorm like this. Yeah. Hey, little nugget. It's going well, other than the fact that we're walking really slow through a windstorm right now. But we're bringing back 2 bunnies, so we did get some kills. Yeah, welcome in. If it seems like this is your first time here, I'm Babbaginator. Here, we'll throw on the little bio thing. And here's a little bit about our current challenge, which is not really a challenge. This is kind of a generic loper right now. This is kind of my rest loper before I go back to doing some more brutal challenges. Our next challenge, which will probably start up next week, we're going to try to do an interloper run where we are not allowed to use matches at all. And we can only start fires with flares, Maglens, or Fire Striker. And that's it. If we find matches, we have to leave them behind. And we'll see how long we can survive like this. And this kind of comes out of like some accidental challenges that I've had, where I've had runs where matches were not plentiful at all. I could not seem to find them anywhere. All the usual spawn sites were like absent. And then there's this run, which has a ridiculous number of matches. By day 7, we had over 100 matches. Oh, you don't know anything about this game. So this game is a... thank you. Yes, I wear a lot of hats. This game is a wilderness or a winter survival game set in the Canadian North, in the aftermath of some sort of bizarre geomagnetic event that has disrupted all electrical systems. So electrical power only happens in the middle of an aurora. The rest of the time, there's no power. So there's like cars don't work, nothing works. And because of this, the landscape you're traversing, all these different places, you won't find any power sources. You won't find any living people because they're all frozen to death. And the only... What was I going to say? Oh, and yeah. So basically you are the lone survivor on this huge island, and there's no escape. You just survive as long as you can. Now, hold on a second. We're going to deal with this problem here. So apparently we got another one of these bozos that wants to sell viewers. We don't need your stinking viewers. We got plenty of good viewers right now. Okay. Dealt with. Okay, so we're pretty far into this run. I think we're on day... Well, not pretty far. Pretty far in the sense that for a vanilla loper, I usually wrap up within the first 50 or 100 days. My record for survival in Interloper is over 300 days doing a... over 300 days doing a challenge, which is, I call... roll with it, which means that we have to visit every region in the entire world, but our length of stay is determined by a random roll when we arrive. And so that's how many days we have to stay. And we don't know until we arrive. So Oh yeah. So what you're saying here is kind of one. This scenario with matches is highly unusual for Interloper. Usually, you might have like around, if you're lucky, you might be carrying around like 50 matches. But here we got 48 plus another 24, so that's 72. Plus another 25, so that's going to be 97. So yeah, we're hovering around 100 matches consistently. We keep finding more matches. And that normally isn't the case. Oftentimes you're like struggling in the early game. So, but yeah, let's see if I can pull up some interesting clips for you of. Let's see. I'll show you some interesting clips of stuff that has happened. Like crazy things that have happened in the past. Let's see. That one's kind of fun. We'll do Fire Dancing Bear. Okay, so one of the things that I try to do is I try a whole bunch of different experiments to see if I can figure out how best to control the movements of the animals. Bears in this game are always aggressive. And one strategy is that you can light a fire and the bear will approach and then stall like at the fire. He does not want to cross the fire. He might eventually charge you, but there's an initial pause as he stops at the fire. And so in that moment, you can, if you happen to have a weapon like a bow or a gun, you could shoot it. And hopefully you'll either scare it off. Either way, if you wound it, it's going to bleed out eventually. You just have to wait long enough. So I tried this strategy where I thought, okay, I'll be on a ledge where there's only two ways to access, one from one direction, one from the other direction. And I will put fires on both sides so that in theory, the bear cannot get to me because I have blocked both entrances. So like he'll come up one way and then he won't be able to pass over and get to me. And if he tried to charge, it would go into another fire. So he wouldn't do that, right? He wouldn't do that. I'm just standing in the middle. I'm perfectly safe. Yeah, it didn't work. It's like, it was funny. It was funny to watch what happened, but yeah, no, I got totally mauled on that one. That was a bad one. But yeah, so Interloper, like there are different types of survival modes here. So different survival modes. If you're starting off and you want to focus on the survival game, then I would say like play just a little bit in Pilgrim or Voyager, the lowest settings, because those are the friendliest, I think, to new people, in the sense that one, in Pilgrim, the wildlife is not aggressive at all. So if you move close, it runs away. If you try to shoot it, actually, if you do shoot a bear, it will become aggressive, and then it runs away. Oh, but most things will run away in Pilgrim. They won't seek you out. You have to seek them out. In Voyager, most things stay away from you, but it is possible to get the occasional wolf that aggroes and goes after you, or the bear occasionally. Actually, even the bear. Well, the bears may go after you, but for the most part, they tend to steer clear of you. So if you intrude into their territory, then you might get a bear encounter. But generally speaking, they're not seeking you out. When you get to Stalker is like the first of the harder modes. Stalker, so whereas Pilgrim, resources are plentiful, weather is generally good, some variety, but mostly good weather. It's hard. You wake up if you're sleeping next to a fire that goes out, or if you're in a cold house. If you sleep and it gets cold and you're taking condition damage, you'll wake up. The game will wake you up at that point, so you won't continue taking damage while sleeping. But when you get to Stalker, then all the predators are aggressive and will seek you out. And Stalker is also known for having the most wolves of any of the difficulty levels. There's just a ridiculous number of wolves everywhere, which are a real pain. But you still have access to guns, and you still have access to like man-made, or not man-made, but you can find like a hatchet, you can find a survival knife, you can find things like that. Pre-made things already exist. When you get to Interloper, though, weather steadily decreases and becomes worse and worse until by day 50 it's mostly miserable. Food and resources are extremely scarce. Everything, all the predators are aggressive all the time, and they can sense you before you can see you. Before you see them, they can sense you and will start tracking you. So you are definitely the prey in Interloper. In Interloper, you, unlike the other difficulty settings, you don't start with matches, you don't start with a bedroll, and you don't start with sufficient clothing. So you are freezing in risk of frostbite. You don't have any way to start a fire, and you also don't have access to you don't have a bedroll, so you can sleep anywhere. You got to find all those things, and the world is devoid of any pre-made weaponry. So there are no survival knives, there are no guns, and there are no pre-made bows. You're going to have to find birch and maple saplings. You're going to have to scavenge as much scrap metal as you can, find a hammer, and then go to a forge, 1 to 3 in the world, and use a bunch of coal to heat up this forge hot enough so that you can make arrowheads and an improvised knife and an improvised hatchet. And then eventually you can craft your own bow. So it's it's a different type of challenge. It's like people say it's like a different game once you get to Interloper. And there's a difficulty beyond Interloper called Misery that was recently added. And that one is, like Interloper, except for you always start in the same location and always in the same weather condition. You start with basically almost nothing. And and the biggest problem is that over time, regardless of what you do, you will acquire new afflictions that impact your like mobility, impact your condition level, and they're not curable. They just stack up. So by the end of 50 days, you'll have accumulated all these different afflictions that are pretty crippling. And so it's not expected that there'll be long runs in Misery. But there are some people that are already doing long runs in Misery. They've gotten decent at it already. Well, I think it's I think if you, like I said, like a good starting point is just play Pilgrim and explore the regions. I mean, the game is gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. There's something deeply meditative and soothing about just wandering these vast, open, natural spaces. And abandoned, ruined, urban, or not urban, man-made structures as well, abandoned and ruined. There's something like compelling about it and beautiful about it. I really love sort of the art in the game, and I think like the other aspects of the game that make it quite good are just like the fact that the game systems are not overly complicated. You don't have to deal with a ton of stuff, but they add up into a fairly, like, the possibilities are pretty impressive, even if you don't have that much to. There's not like a super complex crafting system. There's no auction house or anything crazy like that. We're so getting beaten up here in the. It's not that we're cold, we're just starving and taking damage. Carcass harvesting 3. Okay, so let's go back to. We need to start a fire again. Cook our meat. But yeah, I played the story mode, which is called Winter Mute, which is now a separate title, a separate but related title. And Winter Mute has 4 chapters so far. 5th chapter is supposed to come out later this year. And that's actually a pretty good way to learn the maps and learn the overall. They introduce like the game mechanics, as you go. So I think that's not a bad way to learn. But I mean, also you can learn just playing like Pilgrim or Voyager to get started and getting used to like figuring out things, and it's very forgiving at that level. The only problem with survival mode is that the only time you get to save is when you sleep, when you enter a new region or a new building, so there is a load screen of some sort, and if you get injured, like something changes in your status. So those are the only points where you save. There's no like save button that you can just save and then go back to load up a previous save. If you want that functionality, that's in the in the story mode. In Wintermute has that. But in survival mode, it's just like, now you just go forward and there's no rewind, no reset. Okay. And that, I think, for some people is a little bit of a challenge. They're used to having a way out of whatever predicament they've gotten themselves into. Okay. I think we need a little bit more. A few more torches. But there's also like a really great, like the Twitch community around the Long Dark is phenomenal, extremely supportive. Like we're always rating other TLD streamers, including and often especially newer streamers, and the community is really respectful of what you want. Like if you say no spoilers or you say like no backseating, then yeah, most people respect that and it won't bother you, and they'll just be along for the ride. But if you do want any advice or suggestions, often in your chat you'll find there's like the whole spectrum between people who primarily watch but never play, to like people that have like 4,000, 10,000 hours in the game, which is insane. Yeah, and I'd say like dying, like unlike most games where you feel like, oh no, I must have done something wrong. Well, you did do something wrong, but death in the Long Dark, I think, is, um, I, I was telling someone a while ago, and I kind of believe this, is that there's something intrinsically Buddhist about the Long Dark experience in survival mode, and I mean that in the sense that you there's no escape from this island. You're not, the goal is not to escape. The goal is to live as best as you can and to see as much as you can. Explore, see, try to have an interesting adventure while you're here. Um, and what's Buddhist about this is that, what happens is you play through as best you can, and then you die, and then whatever stupid thing it was that caused you to die. And sometimes it's your stupidity, and sometimes it is just bad luck. And often it is hubris. It is your assumptions that you made when you left one safe place to go out and do something. And you thought, I don't need to take my bedroll with me. I'll be right back. And then you find yourself stranded in a blizzard in a cave, and it's too cold and you can't sleep. And, yeah. So and then you die. And then you like learn a lesson, like I did with my building fires to keep the bear out. Like it turns out that it won't block a bear on a ledge. It will just zip back and forth really fast and then eventually settle in between and then maul you to death. The funny thing about that particular clip is that I actually did not die at the end of the mauling. I managed to escape and get back to the fishing cabins. And then when I was in the fishing camp, I slept all night, recovered a fair bit of my condition, and then I stepped out in the morning, and I picked the wrong time to step out because I stepped out and the bear was crossing right by the cabins right at that moment, and so he turned and charged me and mauled me to death. So that was actually, he still didn't maul me to death. He mauled me to almost death again, but by that point he had destroyed all my clothing, and it was like, okay, I'm not going to make it. Okay. Yeah. 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 So thanks, Dr. Twitchbones. Overconfidence. Yeah. I mean, like some things are just bad luck. I think the shortest run I've ever had, I spawned on Timberwolf Mountain at midnight just as a blizzard was starting. It was pitch black, and except for extreme snow flurries, so I couldn't really see anything anywhere. So I stepped out of the crevice or the little alcove, like the little spot where they had spawned me in, and immediately I trigger a wolf that's nearby who starts charging at me just as the blizzard strikes. So then I'm trying to run away from the wolf. The wolf attacks me. Then I turn in the blizzard and I try to get away, and then I fall off a cliff and die. Actually, I think I died from the wolf. So it was like a total of about maybe 27 seconds, 30 seconds. That was like the welcome in, mysterious stranger. For research purposes, right? Yeah. Oh, we have such terrible recovery right now. I don't know what to do about this. I'm debating whether we have to waste our last. Do we waste our last stim trying to get ourselves into a better place, or yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a pretty quiet night for me. I was busy most of the day and then I got back, and it's going to be a pretty quiet night, just me on stream. My roommate's out tonight. It's Saturday, so they're usually out hanging out with their friends. Probably not back until super late, so. Lucky Baba.
God, I'd eat anything right about now.
I can't believe how poor our condition is right now. We need to find that wolf we shot earlier. Or we need to kill some deer or something.
Yeah, all I can think about is food.
Yeah, we need a deer. We need to kill a deer. Okay. It's super cold out there. Super cold. Why is it so windy on this? Just give us a break, man. Okay, where's our wolf at? Actually, we could move.
Come on, Claire. Come on.
Actually, let's do this. Let's add some more. Slowly warm up our teas.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Where's our wolf? Okay, well, there is a birch area over here. We can get the birch bark and make some more tea, and hopefully that will help us recover a little better. the Dr. Twitchbones, I was saying earlier, I attended a poetry reading earlier today, and the poet, one of the poems in her new book, is about a D&D session. I was like, yay, my people. It was quite nerdy. It was. Yeah. Fail. Yeah. No, one of the things I keep thinking about is like as I'm in this final stage of my program where all I have left is this one research project, which does not require me to be on campus. My opportunities to interact with other human beings is shrinking rapidly. It's like I need to figure out how to interact with more people other than Zoom. For a few like check-in meetings a week, for different projects I'm on. But actually, like, maybe go out and have dinner with people, like have dinner parties. I don't know, do stuff with other people. I like do nothing. I am such a hermit. Going to the poetry reading was like my effort to be social. And at the same time, it was like going without really coordinating with anyone else, just trusting that there'll be at least one or two people I recognize there. Since I didn't know the poets, I just knew that they were connected with writer friends of mine. So I figured, well, there's a good chance I'll run into my friends. But yeah, it just like, I don't know. Vancouver's kind of a tricky place to make new friends. But I am apparently uncomfortably too old. I suspect I'm too old to be single. That's what it is.
Man, all I can think about is food.
Too late. Yeah. But I
My fingers feel numb.
did run into one of my old roommates when I was living on campus, who's he's finishing off his master's in mathematics, and then he's going to stay for the PhD. And so it was the second time we ran into each other on the same bus. So he said, "Yeah, this time I'll definitely remember to set up a time where we actually go out and grab something to eat." So that'll be fun. But he's got to finish writing his thesis, and then once that's done, he gets to like start the next chapter. move on to doing the PhD work.
I've never felt so cold in my life.
This constant wind is brutal, and we don't really have. We're still like lacking in quality. Our sweaters are good. We have one decent jacket or coat, but we don't have really adequate warmth here. We need be nice to get like a wolf coat, bear coat, something substantial to block the wind. It's been ages since we've seen whatchamacallit, blanking out on the flannel coat. I don't remember like the basin being this windy. We're just getting hit by windstorm after windstorm. Okay, we'll try to warm up. Can't warm up here.
So hungry.
Yeah, in terms of like, oh, how do I go out and meet more people? I was like, do I just take more classes? Like take a continuing education class and something? I like really don't want to deal with grades again. Oh, here we go. What's he after? What's he after? Can you at least run in a straight line so I could shoot you? Should be coming for me soon. Man, I hate being this cold. Oops. This is not good. We're in the red. Well, we could end badly here.
One little fire. Perfect.
This is sad. I'd have to use it. I don't really see another way out of this. We're going to be really tired.
I am too tired to think straight.
No, no.
I need anything right about now.
Okay. Let's make our life easier here. Yeah, I really wasn't expecting it to be this windy during my stay in the basin. I was just like, this is harsh.
Jesus, this is cold. This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay. Whew.
I need to find food.
Okay. Now the wind stops. Now the weather's fine, but we're exhausted and need to rest up here.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
So tomorrow's Mother's Day. So, I was gonna say I get to call my mother, except for I do that every Sunday. So it's business as usual. We our family's pretty low key on a lot of stuff. Most holidays and birthdays are like, yeah, just give me a call. Let me know how things are going. If we're in town together, we might go out and grab something to eat. That's basically the extent of what we do. Okay. Oh.
I'll die if I don't get some food soon. this much gear.
Okay. We'll eat up here. Oh. No, we forgot to do the birch bark tea.
Oh, I've never been.
44 days.
All I can think about is
96 tiers? 99
come on, little fire.
red balloons? That wind just will not let up, will it? It just does not want to give up on us. Okay. We're on the mend.
God, I could eat a horse.
Okay, we still have that extra wolf out there to deal with. We don't know where the carcass of the other wolf is. There's something over there. I think that's just, yeah, it's just a tree. Yeah. Oh, you know what was weird today? I was in the grocery store, and one of the songs playing on the grocery store playlist was Luca. Do you remember Luca from the 19... Is that 80s? Yeah, I think it was 1980s. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. That song. I hadn't heard that in ages. That was so trippy.
Cold is making my head feel thick.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull that up here. That was Suzanne Vega was the artist. Here's the YouTube link to that video from way back when. I think that works. Actually, let me take that. Yeah, I just remembered the video and then. Oh, that's not really a helpful. Oops. Let me get a better version. The link I had posted was not really. That was the non-link link. Let's see here. This is a short link. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that was, I don't know, it was like one of those things that was playing all the time back then. 87. That's when it was. 1987. All right. Yeah, I just remember as a kid, as a teenager, you know, we'd watch. What was in Canada? Much Music.
Ooh, cold.
Yeah, it was Canada's version of MTV, Much Music, and so yeah, they would just have certain videos on rotation all the time. You know, so a lot of Michael Jackson stuff, a lot of like Aha and all these other like early big 80s Bon Jovi, all the 80s bands that were super popular at the time. We're not finding a lot of feathers on this run. It's becoming concerning. We have all sorts of stuff, but we're not finding feathers. More firewood. There's a little bit more food.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much.
We really need to find that dead wolf, and then we also need to find, because the dead wolf has our arrow, and then we also need to find this remaining wolf and kill him too. Partly for target practice, but partly because we just don't want to have to deal with wolves all the time. Ooh.
Come on, little fire. Oh.
-3.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay, let's see where we're going. I hear you, buddy. Anyway, try this again and try not to mess up. There we go. Broke our arrow, but hey. Now all the troublemakers are dealt with.
Come on, little fire. Come on. Oh, yeah. That's good. Starting to feel numb.
Okay, we'll just help ourselves here. So all night this guy's been dodging our shots, so we finally got him. And we shot the other one earlier. So yeah, we are now the king. We are the top of the food chain here, unless the moose shows up, and then we're not. But I didn't see any sign of the moose here. I wonder how close we are to cooking 5. I feel like we're still a long ways off. Yeah, still a long ways off. Okay, we've got a couple other things we can drop. Drop this guy.
Barely walk with this much gear. Oh, I'm starving.
2110.
gonna be able to carry this load for much longer.
Okay, we got everything. Okay.
Starving.
Oh, there's one more. Hello, buddy. Apparently, we got one more guy. Come on. Need to deal with you. Okay, come on, buddy. You're taking entirely too long to run around. Just get it out of your system.
I can't feel my feet. Do I, if I don't warm up soon?
Where are you, buddy? Eh, too jerky. Ah, foiled again. Okay, well, I give up.
I gotta eat soon. It's dusk, so I can't be far behind.
Okay. Okay.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay, we're surviving. It's not pretty, but it's surviving. Oops. Uh-oh. How cold are we? -2. Oh, still terrible condition.
Could eat anything.
Okay, we are on day 45. We did about 3 days. What else are we at here? We have killed 7 wolves now. And 45. Yeah, so I think next stream is probably our last one for this challenge. Because honestly, it's a regular Loper run. it's kind of boring, other than the fact that we're got plenty of matches and yet we're struggling with clothing. So, but yeah, I think we're going to get ready for wrap up here tonight. Oh, so I can get some sleep. But before we do that, we're going to do our customary thing, which is read a poem. So we are going to read poetry before we go. So that was our save. Let's go move over here. I got something for, yeah. Let's see here what we got. Poem for tonight. Should we random? We'll do random. First try, we'll do random. And we'll see what we get. Vigil. We did that not too long ago. Ritual. Could do ritual. I feel like we've done that relatively recently too. How the world fits together. Letter 50. Losing the hawk. Losing the hawk's not bad. Yeah, we could do a Babbage one. Okay, so this is from my second book of poetry, Babbage's Dream, published by Sundress Publications in 2017. This poem is entitled Babbage Sending Messages to Ada, Now Gone, 1852. So this has reference to Charles Babbage, 19th century mathematician who designed, partially built, but never finished what would have been the first computer. And working alongside Babbage, that's a whole conversation for another time, but Ada Lovelace was Lord Byron's daughter, but her mother, Lady Byron, did not want Ada to grow up to become a wild, out-of-control poet like her father. And so instead hired math and science tutors to train her. And Ada discovered that she was really quite fascinated by mathematics. She was also quite fascinated by gambling and by boys. So those were other competing interests. But mathematics was actually a really important thing for her. And she really desperately wanted to make an impact on the world. When she was 17, her mother and her attended one of Babbage's famous salons. He would host these dinner or evening events at his house where people would come and be able to see the work that he'd been doing so far on the difference engine, or hear him talk about his plans for the analytical engine. So the difference engine was kind of an early attempt at automating and turning into machinery the process of calculating and expanding out, to evaluating polynomial expansions and other functions to produce tables. And then in the process of working on that, he had this epiphany that you could make a machine that could run any program, be a general purpose machine and not just be confined to doing calculations. And so anyways, as he's talking about these things, he meets Ada, who is then 17, about the same age as his own daughter. And but she's very, very, very precocious. And she listens to his lecture and asks a number of questions, apparently, based on the reading that, the records that we have, apparently made such a positive impression on Babbage by her insightful questions that reflected a real understanding of what he was trying to do, that went far beyond sort of the niceties of the other socialites that just kind of were there but didn't really get what he was doing. And so she became involved with, as she got older, she became increasingly involved with Babbage's work, because he recognized that she was a valuable mind. And more than that, she was gifted at explaining his ideas in a way that more people could understand. So tragically, by 1852, Ada has succumbed to uterine cancer and has died. And so, so that's the main context you need to know is by 1852, she has died the previous year, 1851? No, 1852, I think she dies. 1851 is the great exhibition, the Crystal Palace, in London, which is this showcase, international showcase of technology and innovation. So those two things you need to know. Babbage sending messages to Ada, now gone, 1852. Let's see. Yeah, it is pretty tragic. Babbage sending messages to Ada, now gone, 1852. In the dim streets below, something dark eats away at the light, consuming the gas lamps on every corner one by one, like a cancer, till nothing is left but absence and your lone beacon set in this upper window, a clockwork curiosity you built last year to signal the masses thronging their ways home from the Crystal Palace and Great Exhibition. The world gathered under a glass sky and mechanical earth, the sea churning with countless eyes, each turned to an imagined future, and your staccato flare, a repeated message, a pulse of numbers, depths, wind changes, a code for passers-by to struggle through like a recurring cough from a worn body or the stubborn throb of pain below the belly that her doctors could not decipher except in long and short periods of blood and oblivion. This year you shine the light again, pointed above the invisible barrier that divides the living from the dead, and let your grief burn in all its stuttering failure. You close your eyes, and the world is gone, forgotten, but her voice lingers in the turning of gears, a loose horse whinnying in the darkened streets, the oil-black clouds shuttling across the sky in some wild and unknown pattern. So the previous year, in 1851, Babbage had applied to be able to exhibit his designs and plans for the analytical engine. And he had a less than satisfying experience. And so one of the things he did was he also decided that he would take advantage of the fact that there were all these people tramping through his neighborhood anyways. And he decided to show off an invention that he had created, which was he had come up with a way, he wanted to find a way to communicate using light that could be transmitted transmitted over long distances, complicated bits of information. That's not to say he invented fiber optic. What he invented instead was a system called occulting lights, which is what lighthouses and ships use to communicate over long distances. They have different color filters, they have different patterns, and a different strobe effect, like a different on-off effect. And with that complicated arrangement of these different variables, it can communicate complicated messages over a long distance. And that was Babbage's invention. And so one of the things he did was he set this up so that it would cycle through, repeating this particular message encoded in light. And then he would offer a prize to any passerby who could decipher what he was communicating. And he was just communicating the wind changes, as were being broadcast. And so he was broadcasting that in terms of light. So that's that reference to his staccato flare and the pulse of numbers, depths, and wind changes. Simultaneous to this, we're getting these descriptions that refer back to, the effects of cancer on Ada, as she, and Ada at this point is, I think, she passes away, I believe, when she's 36. which is the same age that her father had passed away, which is doubly tragic. It just seems like their family was cursed. Um, and Babbage, in later accounts that we find, someone visits, England, in the years after, Babbage's, or after Ada had passed away. There's an American clergyman that visits England and happens, by pure coincidence, to stumble into Babbage, who immediately adopts a guy and gives him this amazing tour of London and introduces him to all these different people. And this clergyman, having followed some of the stories around Babbage and around the tragedy of Ada's death, had asked him about Ada. And according to the clergyman's letter that he wrote, and which was later published in a newspaper, he talked about the fact that the moment that he asked about Ada, Babbage's entire countenance changed, and it was like this great, profound sadness descended on him. And he simply said that there was never anyone who could do what Ada did. He credited Ada as being the only one who really understood how to explain the analytical engine, and more than that she had this vision for it. That there's this profound loss, and it was clear that he was still very much affected by it. Some steampunk novelists and steampunk fans try to fantasize that there was some sort of romantic relationship between Babbage and Ada. There's a huge age gap. Everything I've read suggests to me that one of the things I uncovered was that Babbage's daughter, Georgiana, who was named after her mother, who Babbage tragically lost a few years previously, Georgiana, the daughter, ends up getting the flu and dies a number of years after he meets Ada. And so within a few years, Babbage has now lost his wife and multiple children, including his daughter, his only daughter. And then I think he's lost his daughter the year before he meets his, I'm trying to remember how the sequence on this works. When she's 17, where does it go here? Do. 1833, he meets Ada for the first time. She's 17. And I think it's a year later he loses his daughter. Yeah, in a year he loses his daughter. And so I feel like the initial relationship between Babbage and Ada is really more like someone who is a grieving father. At first, he's not in grief. Well, he's still grieving the loss of his wife. But at first, he sees her as oh, she's the same age as my daughter. And then after his daughter passes away, I think there's a part of him that had this paternal connection that he wanted, he saw in her a protege. But then something really interesting happens, which is that there is a point where he knows that there's this Italian mathematician that's written this fantastic review of his work on the analytical engine, and Babbage knows that this review would be really valuable to communicate and stir up more interest and support locally in England. So he asks Ada if she can translate this mathematician's write-up. And Ada agrees to, because she is kind of in a dead-end marriage and bored and wants to get back into doing mathematics. So she leaps on this opportunity. But as she's doing the translation, she very quickly realizes that the mathematician does not fully grasp the full range and complexity and possibilities that the analytical engine might offer. And so she goes on and she appends her own notes, which are like 7 times as long as the original review and far more detailed, and include the first documented program, like computer program, in the sense that she offers a step-by-step algorithm for how this would be encoded and used within the machine. And so she's credited, and it's likely that the code was more of a collaboration, a conversation between Ada and Babbage. But I think she still deserves the credit because she publishes that. And then she also, in the same notes, talks about like what the future holds for a machine like this. And her vision goes even beyond Babbage's. Babbage saw this as a tool of science and inquiry. But Ada saw the computer as being a tool for creating anything. That some future point in time we would see that this would be, we could create art and music. We could create literature. We could create other things using this machine, the computer. And her vision is extraordinary. And I think Babbage recognized that she had caught on to a vision that transcended even his own vision of his own invention. And then her loss was that much more devastating because there was simply no one else who could see as far ahead as he could. And he outlives everyone. Like he lives from 1791 to 1871. He lives almost, almost 80 years, And for the 19th century, that's remarkable. He's really outlived everyone. He's outlived his friends. He's outlived his peers. He's outlived his enemies. He's outlived family. He's really alone at the very, very end. And all he has really at this point is this vision of a machine that can't be finished in his lifetime, but he still wants to write it. He still wants to create it. So I think like that's one of the reasons why I really, really love, as tragic and as devastating as it is, that commitment to a vision, to something that cannot be finished, yet he can write in his own memoir, he says, some future generation will prove me right, that once built, this machine will change the world, that he could have that kind of confidence in his own work, in his own vision, and be absolutely right, So, it's one of the reasons why I ended up, how I ended up writing opera librettos was actually because my composer friend and I, who previously she'd been studying like some of my poems to music, had, I had joked one time and said, what would make a great opera? A great opera would be Babbage's life. We could write an opera about Babbage. And then I said, and you know what would be another great opera? Ada. We could do another opera about Ada. So we ended up writing a little bit, like some pieces for an Ada opera that started to get performed. And then we got commissioned by LA Opera to do a short, like 22-minute opera for high schools, in which it does actually leverage some of those pieces and introduces some new pieces around Ada and sort of women in science. And so that was a really exciting thing. So and now we're working on a full-length opera, which isn't about Ada, it's about something completely different. But it basically all that happened because of us joking around one time and said, what would be great opera? It's like Babbage would be great opera. Yeah. I mean, there's volcanoes. I mean, it's just wild. There's all this tragedy and death and betrayal and misunderstanding and missed opportunities, and yeah, and this also this driving passion or ego to try to get something done despite whatever cost. No, it's opera. It's totally opera. Anyways, thanks for listening to me blather on. I appreciate it. We are going to be back again Tuesday, I think it is. Tuesday will probably be our next session. Yeah, this is the stuff. I love talking about this stuff. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to carve out more time in my daytime schedule to do like another stream. And I'm wondering what that stream will be. Like if it's going to be just me playing games or working on games, or if it's just like me picking like historical. There is that poem about Babbage goes to like the opera for Don Giovanni, and he's more interested in the stage machinery than he is in the opera itself. And he sneaks backstage and he ends up in the rafters in the heavens, and then later goes into underneath the stage into hell, right? Which literally is hell because they're actually lifting up actors representing devils, and he ends up trapped on one of the rising platforms, and it's just a wild time. That's a fun poem. I remember reading about this, thinking like, how in the world does this guy like end up in this situation? It's comedy, and it's also like it's a situation. It's one of the rare situations where Babbage did not want to be center stage. He wanted to be center stage most of the time, but not in someone else's opera. That's not what he wanted. Okay. Yes. Let's get ourselves ready to head out here. Find someone to raid. Trying to think who is going to be on right now. Okay, so right now we have Games and Cookies, Nemesis, Darling, Carradine. You know, we haven't done Carradine in a couple streams. Let's go visit Carradine. Okay, Carradine's got a big crowd tonight. Look at that. Doing Wolf Wrangler. Okay. Carradine. Okay. Get the raid going. Yeah, I'm gonna probably wrap up. Ooh, yeah, it's actually plenty of time. Well, it's right on the time for me to get some sleep. So, okay. Thank you all for hanging out. We will be back again Tuesday, maybe earlier if I can figure out some daytime streaming schedule. But we'll keep you posted. Take care. We'll see you on the other side of this raid. Thank you all.